Yeah, well, Dalvin Cook's future has been sort of open-ended recently. I was told from a source that the Vikings want to do right by Dalvin Cook. Right now, they're willing to hold on to his cap hit of around $14 million until they figure this all out. They want him to go to a place where he can play and be happy, whether that's via trade or eventual release or even staying in Minnesota. But that's sort of the thing they've been sorting through. I believe the Vikings have been willing to listen to trade offers. I've talked to some teams who have linked Dalvin Cook to Miami in the past just because he's a South Florida guy. They were looking for a running back at one point, but they also just drafted one in the third round and had re-signed a couple players. So there's not a clear-cut avenue for him to be traded, at least at the moment. And so the Vikings moved on from Zadarius Smith. They could be willing to move on from Dalvin Cook at some point, but it hasn't shaken out yet.
We're going to be talking about Dalvin Cook, and is he a good fit for the Miami Dolphins? I think a lot of fans think that they got to have him, that they don't feel that Mostert and Wilson and Ahmed and Gaskin are going to be good enough, that we need to up the level in the running back room and bring in somebody like Dalvin Cook. There's only one ball, people. There's only one ball to go around. And do you want to see the Dolphins spend a bunch of money bringing in Dalvin Cook when it seems as though the existing running backs could indeed supply everything the Dolphins need? Maybe the money is better spent on getting out there and, getting some offensive linemen to actually block for the running backs. But Dalvin Cook seems to be wanted by so many Dolphins fans, despite the running back room being completely full. It's completely full. But will the Dolphins be looking to spend the money to acquire a back like Dalvin Cook? Got a couple interesting stories I want to run by you. This story is by Jacob Meschel, who's from Bally Sports. And if you guys can see this, he says, according to Florida Sports Buzz, Barry Jackson, a potential Dalvin Cook move to the Dolphins is not a done deal. While there's a real possibility he could end up in Miami if released by Minnesota, there's no secret agreement in place. The Vikings may explore a pay cut or hold on to him for now. If released, the Dolphins could pursue him, but not at his current salary. Cook's $10.4 million deal has only $2 million guaranteed. Now understand, I put some emphasis on the word released because that's very important. First, there was supposed to be a trade somewhere with Dalvin Cook. It doesn't look like as of today that is happening. So the only other way to get Dalvin Cook would be for the Minnesota Vikings to release him. He then goes on the open market as a free agent, and he would really, really, really want to come to Miami. Why is that, Barry? Well, because once he becomes a free agent, it's a bidding war. Any team in the league can offer him probably more than the Miami Dolphins can. And at that point, how bad does Dalvin Cook want to come to Miami? We're going to find out real soon, because it doesn't look like there's much in the way of trades coming for Minnesota Vikings. So once he gets cut, i.e. released, the bidding war will begin. I'm not sure the Dolphins have the deep enough pocket to really enter into a bidding war for Dalvin Cook. So it's a matter of Dalvin Cook being a South Florida guy. Does he want to come home? Is Dalvin Cook willing to take a huge pay cut just to come play with the Miami Dolphins? Don't know. Don't know what's in his mindset. Walking away from $10 million? I don't know, because he's not going to be able to get anywhere near that with the Miami Dolphins. So now check out what Barry Jackson had to say. Barry Jackson says, even though Cook would welcome playing here if the Vikings could work out a trade with Miami, there's a huge variable is if he's cut, to what extent monetarily do Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel believe he's worth at sacrifice of carries for Mostert, Wilson, A-Chain? Another team might offer him more money. So I don't know what's going to happen, but it's obvious at this point something's going to happen with Dalvin Cook. He's going to end up somewhere. And my feeling as of today is the Dolphins are a long shot. Maybe a couple of days ago, it looked like it might happen because there was some interest. But if they end up releasing him and cutting him, is Dalvin Cook going to walk away from a lot of money just to become a Miami Dolphin? Now, let's look at something else that Mike McDaniel said. I've talked to you many times about the character of the players with the Miami Dolphins. I've told you how that obviously has a great deal of importance with Mike McDaniel and the nucleus of this team. I won't get into the religious part because I know it ticks some of you guys off, but that's part of the character building nature of what Mike McDaniel has put together. Can't deny it. So ESPN reported on something that Mike McDaniel said, and you got to check this out. This is from an article on ESPN titled, "Would Dalvin Cook be a good fit with the Miami Dolphins?" And it goes down here. It's written by Marcel Louis Jacques. It says the Miami Dolphins couldn't possibly add another star to their planetarium of a locker room, could they? Yeah, they could, obviously. If the Minnesota Vikings indeed move on from running back Dalvin Cook, don't be surprised if the Dolphins bite. Now, this article was written yesterday at 6 a.m. Things have changed since then, but still, there's something really interesting in this article. He talks about Cook, his stats, and everything else, but does Cook to the Dolphins actually make sense? Goes down, talks about the history of drafting with the Dolphins and other things. And then I want you to check this out. This is a quote by Mike McDaniel. "Ultimately, we had the opportunity to bring two of our strongest character contributors and really players we depend on in Raheem and Jeff. They're both, I think, above 4.7 yards per carry." McDaniel says, "I think there'd be a little bit of a different feeling about Dalvin Cook, obviously, if we didn't run the ball because they didn't run the ball well. At 4.7 yards per carry, yeah, they ran the ball very well. We didn't run the ball well in games that were overly injured, or some games I just didn't call enough runs." So he's putting it on himself at this point. And then he continues. So when you look at it historically, if you can get a runner 4.5 plus, they're doing something pretty good. I see them as a big part of our team and just the fabric and who we are as human beings. They really contribute to that locker room. I said that to you guys. I said that to you a month ago. He is interested in the fabric of the room, the character of the men that he brings in. He keeps saying it in interviews. People completely miss that. All the fans on Twitter, everybody I see talking about Dalvin Cook. Does he fit with this team? Does his character help build the fabric of the room? That's the head coach of this football team who just said it. I'm going to show it to you again. I'm not making it up. He specifically says, ultimately, we had the opportunity to bring two of our strongest character contributors and really players we depend on in Raheem and Jeff Wilson. He brought in highest, most esteemed characters into the Miami Dolphins locker room when he brought in Jeff and Raheem Mostert. High character guys, and unless there's something way above them available, somebody who's way above 4.7 yards per carry, why would I, look at disrupting the fabric of the team? Sometimes people have to understand what a locker room is all about, how that meshes as well, how you don't need some of the ideologies. Does that mean Dalvin Cook won't fit? No, I'm not saying that at all. I understand that Dalvin Cook is now a Christian as well. Even though his past history doesn't lend well, people change. People turn their lives around. Dalvin Cook has supposedly turned his life around, and far be it from me to question that. But if Mike McDaniel has already brought in the highest ultimate of character into that locker room, and they have developed the fabric of the team he wants to have, do you think he wants to change that? Further from the article, goes back now to the money. As for Dalvin Cook, he probably also would have to take a pay cut in the event he signed with the Dolphins. He's due $11 million this season if he remains in Minnesota. And it's unlikely a Dolphins offer would be close to that amount of money. Even with roughly $13 million of salary cap space opening up as of June 1st, it's already opened up. But are you going to take a bulk of that money and spend it on one running back? I don't know. I just don't see it happening. So given all that, given the character, foundation and fabric that Mike McDaniel has built with this team, do you think that he should change that character, change the money situation, and bring in Dalvin Cook anyway? I'd love to know what you guys think.
Is anybody catching on to this Barry guy?